So if I keep feeling pressure, like in the back of my spine, in the center of my spine, you know, basically in the back of my chest, you know, um, the weight of my body's disorientation shifting, you know, there's a time where I would sit up straight, and I would test this too. I would sit up straight, and before I even realized it, I would be leaning back, down, and I'd be so hunched, and I'd be like, dude, what the? And then I'd pick myself up. And literally, it was how I started this fight with myself, with my conscience will versus the will of another conscience, It's just by sitting up. And I would just sit there. And then eventually, I noticed that at some point I'd come back, something to come back or whatever would show up, if it was my own inclination or my own intention or my body's natural, posture just, falling into itself, But I made it into more because at the time I was trying to build this narrative of, my sister had this experience before she passed away, where she had psychotic episodes and schizophrenia, and I always, like, it basically traumatized me, it left an impression on me that I just could not understand, in a world where I thought I had all the answers, my sister having died and gone through that experience and me not even having a flicker of anything that I would find worthy, So it was like, and then yet again, everything calling me to still care or to still, have an opinion or look into the matter, And so eventually, I basically convinced myself to create, the situation and circumstances and experience that she herself had created for herself. I got deep into drugs. I got deep into isolating myself away from people. I became habitually addicted to my own, personal satisfaction and impulsive living, and basically I always turned it to me for an answer, because I could always basically fix whatever problem I created in myself. So, I basically had that confidence that was then, basically presented to other people in a different face, in a different perception, a different point of view, and basically all of it too was to eventually get me to forget that the whole originating, inspiring factor to this was my sister's passing, So with that, it was more about, if I just behave like her, if I just talk like her, because she became like very free, and at the time I was very judgmental in my own mind. I had all kinds of opinions, I called her all kinds of names, or I just felt like I could vibe with her that way and she would be used to it and allow me, because she basically didn't see in herself that being anything of any more or less. I missed the whole experience of her, going through that, that self, tuning in, so I only seen who I knew and then who I saw after, she came into herself, or at least what she believed about herself and how she walked and carried it, At the time, I didn't get it like this, but now that I've dove into it, and I've actually put myself in her shoes, and I mean, basically, I've tied any idea you can conceptualize in your mind, no matter how terrible, I walked into those footsteps, into the shoes, and committed that act, and seen myself in that position, in that place, and basically experience everyone else knowing me that way, talking to me that way, treating me that way, So essentially, inside of myself, I began to awaken and said, nah, this isn't right. Why would I allow this about me or to me or within my experience to be something that we just brush off, And it was only because I wanted to confront the experience my sister had in the realest way, in the most honest way, since I didn't have her any longer and I couldn't ask her. I could only nitpick what it was brought to mind, what was drawn to my perception, what was brought to my point of view to draw my perspective of her, And so I had to know how to navigate the inner workings of my manipulating my mind, of my lack of manipulation of my mind, and then of knowing how to clash those two things together to destroy them both and make something completely new. And so and that is where I've invited y'all to experience with me, to understand my walk and see where I'm walking from and where I'm looking from and what it is that the whole intent behind my becoming dramatized, accessing my experience and actually embodying and living my actual experience, rather than just being a bystander, constantly asking questions like, why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why are they going here? And why are they going there? And why are we still here talking about all that stuff? So essentially it was like, wake up,